Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about why most programmers fail. And when I say programmers, let me reiterate on that, it's most self-taught programmers. I've been in the industry now for a while, and as someone who actually started out as a self-taught programmer followed by a boot camp, I have seen so many people going through this process and ending up failing. So I wanted to share with you today why that is. Before we go any further though, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more tech and coding related videos. Also, as always, shout out to some of these subscribers here. Thank you for your love and support. And also, if you have any other questions, leave them down in the comments because that's what I make these videos around. Okay, let's get started. As someone who comes from, I guess you could say, an untraditional background in the sense that I don't have a computer science degree, a degree in something else, but I definitely did the self-teaching route and then the coding bootcamp, and now I've worked at a startup and now I'm at a big tech company as a software developer. I can completely attest to seeing and saying that there are so many people who set out with high hopes to be a self-taught programmer and end up failing. And a lot of people do fail because they don't recognize these little tweaks or little different kind of modifications that they could make that would really essentially change their kind of outlook or their path. Also, I want to say there's a huge difference for someone who has a dream to become a programmer in the sense that they speak about it, they want to do it, and someone who actually executes on their dream. And of course, that's with any role or any career path. There are so many times that people want to get into something or they have this grandiose vision, but the work and the execution, they don't have the willpower or the motivation to follow through with it. The first thing that I see that really stops self-taught programmers from succeeding is right from the get-go, they don't have a clear path. And of course, when you are someone new, starting in a new field, especially in programming, when you go online or Google, what should I learn first as a programmer, it is so easy to become so overwhelmed, and rightfully so. There is so many different technologies, so many different career paths, and for me anyways, I remember feeling there is so much I need to learn, and it almost freezes you in your tracks and stops you in your tracks, stops you in your tracks, and it can shut down people right away. So if you don't go into learning how to program with a very solid track, a very good pathway that you are going to stick to and commit to, it is very easy to fall off the tracks and in turn just say, programming isn't for me. So it goes to the question, well, how do you know what track you need to go on, what path you need to take? And I always say to people, if you're looking to become a software developer, you will spend 99% of your time, not actually, but a lot, Googling. And why not start now? So when you Google something, I would Google topics such as how to become a web developer or a web developer course. Some courses I really like are Free Code Camp. I love, there's some really awesome web development courses on Udemy. Even YouTube has some great free resources. So have a path and stick to it. What I always recommend to people too is to write it down on a calendar or even in a to-do, like a notepad, and have checkpoints. Okay, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to focus on, or for the next week, I'm going to focus solely on HTML and CSS, like the basics. Then I'm going to learn programming language. I'm going to learn Python or JavaScript. And then after that, for example, for me, I learned vanilla JavaScript, and then it was like 2 or 3 weeks of learning React, and then 2 or 3 weeks of learning Node and Express. I don't know exactly how many weeks it was, but breaking it down as to how long you're going to spend on each technology is a great way as well to kind of have a big plan as to what the technologies are you will be learning, giving yourself a time frame, and also keep in mind everyone's learning and the speed that they learn at is so different. So if you set for yourself to give a month to learn vanilla JavaScript, and after a month you are still feeling overwhelmed, do not move forward. Take a step back and continue learning the basics before moving on. Don't beat yourself up. And that brings me to my next point. Number 2, I always see, and it gets to the point where people just end up dropping off, is they are not kind or patient to themselves. And I know this can kind of sound a little like, okay, Tiff, like what are you actually talking about? Like that's just like mushy stuff, or I don't know, whatever. But it's so true. The messages I get from people who are learning to become a self-taught or self-teaching to become a programmer, Some of them are so hard on themselves and have these huge expectations that they need to be this brilliant software developer in 5 months, or they're going to quit. And that should not be the case. As a software developer, you are always learning, always growing, and you really need to take that mentality and mindset right from day one. You're never going to know it all, so don't try to. Don't put that pressure on yourself too, but learn to develop skills that you're kind to yourself, you're patient with yourself, speak to yourself as though you would speak to others. And for me, when I was first learning how to code, I really missed the mark on that one. I was so hard on myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself because for a lot of us, especially if you're self-teaching, you want a job right after. There's a goal as to why you are learning how to code. And when it comes with the pressure of finding a job that you need to learn these skills in a specific amount of time, it can be even more overwhelming. But I'm telling you right now, take a step back and be patient. If there's a day that you just don't feel like coding, then don't code. It doesn't need to be 24/7, round the clock, Monday through Sunday kind of thing. My next biggest piece of advice, or thing that if people are missing, I see them fail a lot at, is they don't have a mentor. And I get a lot of messages of, well, where do I find a mentor? I don't know anyone to mentor me. And in reality, for myself anyways, all I did was just reached out to someone I admired it was through Instagram, and they lived in the city I live in, and I just said, hey, I really like your career path. I admire it. I was wondering if I could take you out for 10-minute coffee right by your workplace at convenient time for you, and start building that relationship organically. Your mentorship with someone isn't going to happen overnight. You can't demand someone to be my mentor today. It needs to happen over time, organically, and building that relationship, because I truly believe there needs to be something in it for the mentor as well. They need to feel that what they are telling you or passing on to you is valuable, and you're actually, listening to what they're saying, absorbing it, you want to be there with them. And if you're not giving back at least that much, then what's the point of them mentoring you? Okay, let's talk a little bit about building projects. So you're a self-taught developer, you're trying to build a portfolio so you can get a job, right? Okay, so what kind of projects are you building? Are you trying to build the next Facebook or next YouTube, or are you being realistic and building projects that actually reflect your skills, your skill level, but also your time? You don't have time to necessarily sit for, like I mentioned, 10 hours a day, coding all day. Maybe if you're a self-taught developer or in that process, you have to work, you have a family, there are a ton of other things. So as much as it is, you need your skill level to reflect your projects, you also need to be aware of your time. You can make some really great projects in a short amount of time, but when they start scaling and becoming these grandiose things, that's when you really need to take a step back and see if this is realistic. And why I bring this up is because a lot of people start making these big projects right from day one, and they end up getting defeated or tired with it because it didn't go as planned, or they don't have the time, and in turn just give up. Okay, the next area that I see a lot of self-taught developers fail in is the job hunting process. So you've made it to a point where you feel comfortable to job hunt, and you're putting your resume out there, but you're not seeing any results. So if you go online, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. If you go online, there are so many companies who ask for so much, like so many years of experience, so many technologies to know, and there isn't much room for junior developers, or so it seems where I live. And it can be very defeating to see that, hey, maybe I do need, everyone wants like 10 years experience. How am I even going to get my foot in the door, and in turn just kind of switch career paths or just kind of call it a day? And what I always say to people who are in that spot looking for jobs, where I see the mistake lie is they're looking to get their dream job. And what I mean by that is for example, when I was graduating from my coding bootcamp, I saw so many people who had these expectations of, I need to work here, I need to get paid this much. And I mean, first of all, it's great to have that. I think, obviously know your worth, know your self-worth, but also make sure that is aligned with reality and be realistic, because it's easy to think I spent all this time, put all this energy into learning this skill, I need to land my dream job. But I'm telling you right now, your first job, especially as a self-taught developer, or really, I think anyone, even if you have a degree in computer science, you're very unlikely to find your dream job right out of the gate or with your dream salary right out of the gate. And that's okay. You're going to learn something from your first job. You're going to have so much experiences, and there's going to be so many different takeaways that it's so valuable. Obviously, make sure you're getting paid, industry standard and what you're worth, and working somewhere you enjoy, but it doesn't have to be your dream job. And just because you didn't get your dream job doesn't mean you failed. It's one step closer to getting your dream job, getting your dream career or salary. And that will come. I'm telling you, for myself anyways, my first job after my coding bootcamp, which I know isn't self-taught, but I keep on bringing it up because regardless whether it's self-taught or coding bootcamp, still looking for a job on your own. It wasn't actually as a developer, it was as a QA, quality assurance analyst. And the reason I ended up taking that position instead of a developer position was because it was a company I really wanted to work for. I didn't let my ego get in the way. I thought, you know what? This is a great company and I see that there's opportunity to grow here. And I knew there was going to be a lot of growth as far as going into the developer role, but also learning about the QA role. So I thought, let's give it a try. And I'm so grateful I did that because, I think it was 6 months to 8 months later, I ended up getting a job with the same company, a different role as a developer. And it was just because I took that chance of, letting go of my ego and not being too proud to take a job that I necessarily wasn't my dream job, but it was a stepping stone to getting there. And I just feel like a lot of people have this ego and this big thing that they need to get this massive job, and if they don't, they just kind of are too proud to accept anything less. So my biggest piece of advice on that is let go of your ego. Every experience, every job is a building block to getting to your next one. And also as a side note, once you land your first one, recruiters will be hitting you up, or from my experience anyways, so much that it's never going to be another stressor. It's just your first job that's the hardest. So do not give up. Okay, those are some areas that I really see a lot of self-taught developers end up failing and giving up in. I hope this advice and insight will really help you with your journey as a programmer, especially if you are a self-taught programmer or know someone who is. At the end of the day, I think the most important things are having a plan, mapping out that plan so it doesn't seem so overwhelming, so grandiose, and sticking to it. Along with sticking to it, I would say finding a community or mentor. And when I say community, it doesn't have to be 10 people. It could be even 1 or 2 people who support you. Maybe they're not in the industry, but they just believe in what you're doing. So at the end of the day, have a plan, have a schedule, and have a community. Thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more tech and coding related videos. Also, once again, if you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments below. As I mentioned, that's how I make my videos, is based on hearing your feedback and thoughts and questions. Thank you. I'll see you soon.